Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Married Sisters Talk Show. I am your host, Becca Wilson. This show was created to deal with topics and issues that women are facing today. Whether you are married, single, widowed, or divorced, this show is for every sister. Please be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and every Tuesday on our Married Sisters YouTube channel at 12 noon. If you like our show, please subscribe, like, and share.
We are sisters, married sisters, living our best lives, being blessed wives with our misters. We are sisters, we are married sisters.
Can we talk about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I just love that. And I love that you asked me about the 7. And you also said at 7, that's when people just figure it out, or they just either just go in different ways. But my husband and I last year, it was an interesting year. And so I had this thought, like, I don't know, like maybe this is it. Maybe we need to.
Because you saw the energy go.
Yeah, and I had watched it for a while. And so I said, maybe it's time I be honest with myself and say, we're done. Like, this is ridiculous. And then coming into year 7, as we were thinking about just going separate ways, figuring out how to just end it, like, let's just be done with this, because this is ridiculous. I just felt this feeling come over me, and it was a God thing. God is like, no, there's more. And so seeing that image there, those two things, what God is doing is showing two people, because I was already on the journey of just discovering self and fulfilling self. And so just to watch my husband like go into this place of, I'm just really trying to figure out who I am. What do I like? Like, and it's not that I don't want to be with you, but like, who am I? And so I'm like, I'm cheering for you. Like, go figure you out. Because once you become a better you and I'm a better me, we're a better we. Yeah. And so for God to have just come over me and say, well, no, you're not going anywhere. But y'all are going to figure out how to exist and how to become whole people. And I need him, you know?
If he would have gone somewhere else, then you guys would have missed the whole point of the exercise.
Exactly.
But when that energy lifts after 7 years, it does feel like, oh, we ran out of gas, so might as well go get an Uber or something, go find somebody else. Right. But what God is saying is, as you drift apart, then you will have an opportunity for brokenness through the combat, through the difficulties, through and see, this is what complicates it. And I alluded to it before. So our picker of a spouse, one book calls it your imago, basically who you're attracted to. It gets calibrated by the wounds of your childhood. Now, we don't know that when we are young people. And if a lot of people knew how much pain the marriage would be, eventually, on into your 40s, you'd be talking to that 22-year-old and said, don't go down there, girl.
Yeah. For real. Yes. Go the other way.
You sure you want to go down this road?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's so true.
But the pain is like, it's like the most beautiful yet ugly thing ever. For me, like, Sis Toy and I have shared, our just upbringings have been similar, filled with so much trauma. So trauma was my norm, just toxicity was my norm. So coming into marriage, I was excited because it's like, okay, I get to undo what was done to me. And I get to unlearn.
And that's what enmeshment feels like in the beginning.
Right. But there's work.
Exactly. But I was willing to put in the work, though, because I had never seen people have healthy, long-lasting relationships. Even my grandparents, they're together to this day. But they're not a model of healthy. I do not look at their relationship like, oh, I want to learn. I don't want to learn anything but how to do something different. You know? And so for me, it's like I just always was so determined to like figure it out. And even when it's been difficult, but still not wanting to just be like, okay, I'm just giving up. Like wanting to figure it out to change the narrative of marriage in my family.
Yeah. Well, I like that. There's a word that I use that people associate with alcohol and drug therapy. It's called the word recovery. And what recovery is, it's not about alcohol. It's what do you got?
Yes.
Was your dad incarcerated when you were a little girl? Or whatever happened in everybody's got something.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I'm hearing, Marche, and you is a fierceness to work on yourself in the context of the pain of marriage. You eat the pain, you face it, you go, quickest way to it, right into it.
And lean into it.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. But it does take two people. Sometimes as you get healthier and you get more fierce, but you learn how to set boundaries. Sometimes it pokes the holes in the other person, and sometimes, they're just not wired to do the work and feel the pain. It's human nature to numb out and not. There's so many. You just play with your phone all day. You can watch TV. You can get on the computer. You can drink. You can eat. There's so many. You can work too much. So people tend to numb out. And I got a root canal the other day, and root canals get a bad reputation. It wasn't that bad, but a lot of people think therapy is like a root canal. And I said, no, you got it all wrong. Therapy is going to the spa. You get stuff cleansed out and healed, and renewed. There's nothing better than a good old snotty cry to sort of flush out your system. So, Becca, what's coming up for you as we talk about these family dynamic things?
Well, listening to that and just now really starting the journey. I'm in my late 40s. I'm in my late 40s. I had to think about it, But life for me is that, and this has been a true journey because, I'm going to just kind of back up because on the setting you see hot pink, the fuchsias and things. And so when God gave me the vision of Mary Sisters, he led me to this color of fuchsia.
Nice.
And what fuchsia represent is writing relationships. I didn't even know that.
I did not know that either.
And until I was kind of going through some things, because I'm like, why is it that people seem like in my family don't like me? I'm that one who buys into this. I love family, and family has been almost like my biggest fall, because when it comes to family and my family dynamic, our relationship is superficial. It really is superficial. It is nothing, no deep connections.
And you're wanting to press the envelope a little bit, get a little deeper.
Yes. And so even I'm the one that will go and apologize. Even when I know I haven't done anything, I'm that one to just come out and I apologize. And I'm like, let's right these wrongs. Let's talk about it. Let's stop coming and sitting at a family table and you don't say a word to me. You don't even look at me. But those who have bonds in the family, they'll sit there and they're talking and like I'm just non-existent. And so, but when I come from a broken home, and so
every home is broken.
Yeah. That's so true. But, my father wasn't there for me. They got divorced, and my mom just really shut down and then did her survival mode. You guys got a roof over your head.
You sort of lost both parents too, in a way.
Exactly. So I lost both parents. And then also in that dynamic, the older siblings took on the role of like, I'm the man of the house now, and because mom has to go and work. And then my sister took on the role like almost like I'm the mom and I got to cook y'all's food and do this and take care of you guys. But yet there was never really a bonding. And so I had trust issues. So my first marriage was something that I guess, I was looking for a father figure, and I realized that in my marriages that I fell, and even though I was physically abused by these people, physically and verbally abused, I just didn't see it because I'm looking for a father, and this person was able to tell me. Was there
control or criticism or anger in either of your parents or any parental fit? Okay.
Oh, yes. There's definitely, well, with my mom, because of what happened with their fallout, is, you know, it was a very touchy situation.
She got a little cranky.
And for her, well, because it came with the bloodline. I mean, there's just some things that just shouldn't happen, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, she never recovered from that, and so forth. It trickled down on us, you know, the children.
Yeah.
You know, we're one half our father. You know, I can't stand your father. You look just like him. So I felt, you know, kind of like, well, you don't like me either, you know. And my siblings, we weren't taught to not to talk about each other. I would be the one that it just seemed like pick on Becca today, all the time.
Triangle situation where that really hurts to be on the wrong end of the triangle.
Yeah, so I was always the brunt of the jokes. I never had that safe haven. I never felt safe at home, never felt safe at school, never felt safe in the church that we were associated with. I never felt that because it was always pick on Becca.
Sometimes it's a prayer request. Sometimes it's gossip hidden as a prayer request.
So now I have, since last year, I've really been trying to hone in deeply on the you that they haven't met.
There you go.
Reintroducing myself.
There you go.
Who God has called me to be.
Okay.
And really taking that stand. And, you know, I falter every now and then, but I have
everybody does.
Sistas here that I feel like the kind of, hey, hold up, this is not the case.
Yeah.
We're here for you. We love you. You can do these things. And my husband gives me those compliments. You know, we're both walking through our finding that you and trying to come together. But it is, I don't even know how to say it. It's just really
So y'all are speaking my language. I think I'm speaking your language as well. Couple things I'm just joking when I say this, but I say I get to heaven, I'm gonna demand a meeting with God right away.
Come on, me too.
Which you too?
I'm gonna be behind you.
You know what? I don't think it's gonna impress anybody when we do that. But if I get an audience, I'd say, okay, you know, you're like the Lord of the universe and pretty powerful, you know. So why don't we come up with a plan when somebody was abused and then they attracted to somebody really healthy and they live happily ever after, don't get no more boo-boos. Mm-hmm. Why don't we do that? And I said, why, whatever you go through. I had a situation, this is the most distinct one, many years ago, this is before cell phones, a dad controlled his daughter. He would listen in on her telephone conversations and he would record them as a teenager. That's dirty pool. So she became a real strong person. She married a real passive guy. One day she was up in the attic. She found this recording box. A passive guy was recording her telephone conversations.
See?
How's that happen?
Right. Just, wow.
She had radar, and she said, I'm trying to avoid my dad. I'm gonna pick a passive guy. I'm gonna control him. That's what I'm going was taping her telephone conversation. That's spooky.
That is spooky.
But that's what happens. See, you grew up, your mom was angry, and if you don't, it doesn't even have to be directed at you. Mm-hmm. It could be secondhand smoke.
Exactly.
It could be collateral damage. If you're around it, it traumatizes you.
Yes.
You know, so yeah. Then sometimes I meet with 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Not very often, but recently I've had several, and all of their dads were narcissists. And so I'm like, here's your prognostication for your love life. You're screwed. You know, it's going to get ugly for you because you're going to have to go through some stuff. And it helps them to know that, because who tells you that?
Who just be honest?
Nobody tells you that. Well, right. It's something that you don't know until you get to be 40 or 50, and then you read a book, or you go to a seminar, or you go to therapy, and then the light goes on. You go, oh, now I see.
You know, you just trigger something in me, because I have two daughters, two young adult daughters, and I worry about their relationships that they're going to have.
They're going to struggle
if they just don't get it together. Seem like now, but it's like they're young. How am I going to get them into therapy to deal with?
The therapy will be the relationships they get in. Mm-hmm. And if they struggle and there's brokenness and tears and messiness, that's okay. Mm-hmm. People are strong and resilient. They'll get through it. Now, sometimes if you're dealing with narcissistic people, then you get re-traumatized, so as an adult. So.
Yeah, I think though, Becca, I mean, even as my kids are nowhere near the dating age yet, hopefully. Hopefully. I mean, I do have a 16-year-old, so I mean, it's little dating. It's not the serious stuff yet. Yeah. But one thing that gives me comfort in regards to my children is the fact that God has them, and he, just like he has orchestrated or allowed us to create a path that has brought wholeness. I just trust that my kids are going to walk that same journey. And when I'm wrong, because again, I still have days where I need to be delivered, I tell them, hey guys, Mom's sorry.
That is so redemptive that you can do that with your kids.
Yeah, I have to do that because I don't want them to measure that behavior in that moment.
Your kids are going to leave home healthier than you did. Mm-hmm. So you did your job. We get a ticker tape parade for you.
Thank you.
If they leave home healthier than you, and you're listening to them, that's the difference. Yeah. So they'll pick a healthier person to start out with.
That's good. That's good.
The other thing that you said, Becca, that you talked about the bloodline. And most of the stuff that we're talking about has nothing to do with blood. Now, there are some things that do. There are some mental illnesses, bipolar disease, some depression is genetic and it's in the bloodline. But 95% of it, it's the sins of the fathers going to roll downhill. And you grow up with criticism. What I've got here is I've got 21 patterns just for fun. I thought I'd go through common patterns I see all the time where it could start with the grandparents. Well, everything, rolls downhill, but a lot of times what I do is I focus in on, of course, the parents of these adult couple that comes to me. But sometimes something happened. It could have been being in a concentration camp. And grandparents are great. It could be World War II. It could be, what the biggest one is? Suicide. Anytime in a generation, 2 generations, 3 generations ago, now, current generation, it is by far the biggest powerful thing that affects generations of families.
Can we talk about that?
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like in the Black community especially, that's not something we talk about. And so in my line of work,
a lot of people don't talk about it.
For real, but my stance is firm, like just with the mental health of like the Black community, because I have like a nonprofit and I just focus on just being mentally well, because we don't focus on that. And so suicide hits home for me. Because I can remember as a young girl being very suicidal before I knew what suicidal was. Mm-hmm. And I can remember my mom telling me my uncle, who I was close to, he committed suicide at my other uncle's house. And so I don't know if I was present, I don't know if I was exposed to it, but I just remember her telling me the story, and I remember having struggles with just suicidal thoughts. And so prior to just doing everything I need to do to make sure that I'm as mentally well as possible, from exercising to not drinking to numb the pain to facing it and journaling and gratitude and stuff, I could remember it would get really dark for me. And when it would get dark, I would just have these suicidal thoughts just come, and like, I don't need to be here, and so on the outside looking in, I'd imagine people would think like, well, you're this and you do that, like you can't struggle, but no, I have struggled. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think we talk about it enough though, about when it gets dark, like what do you do? Right. Or like it comes from, this is a part of you, or like, and it's okay, but how do you face it, or how do you fight it, or how do you deal with it?
We made a video about a month ago where I interviewed 3 men, and either their son committed suicide or their father. I was never so drained after doing an interview, because it's such a powerfully sad story. And then I had 3 or 4 other clients whose dads or brothers had committed suicide, and they just shut off emotionally because it's too big to feel. So they went through their whole rest of their childhood and their adulthood numb. And then why they show up? They show up because the wife says, "Where are you? There's a bubble around you," and she comes rapping on the bubble. And they show up in front of me, and then I find out Dad committed suicide. So we got to talk about this. We got to cry about this. This recovery process I talk about, it's like taking your heart, and your heart's a freezer, and it's filled with frozen feelings. And we unplug the freezer and open up the door, and one by one thaw them feelings out. And sometimes that's hard for a man. Men are taught to be tough and not to be weak. That ain't being weak. There ain't nothing stronger than a man who can feel his feelings and cry. He's a human too. His daddy killed himself, when he's, 10 years old. That's the most important thing that ever happened in his life. He gotta face it, but it's too big to face a lot of times with a man trained not to feel, whereas women have more permission, to feel their feelings about something like that.
That's true. I like that you say that. That's one quality I admire about my dad. We have the greatest conversations. And and our relationship, it's been interesting. It's been a rocky road, but thankfully we've arrived to a different place. But one thing I admire about him, and I tell him all the time, like, you are so in touch with your feelings. He's not an overly emotional person, but he can feel, and he can say, well, this is what I feel. And I feel like that, I just want to give more men permission to feel what you feel. And I tell my husband too, feel what you feel. Don't be ashamed. You want to cry. You want to cry next to me, do that. You want to cry alone, feel what you feel.
A lot of times they only got one gear, and that's anger. When they really have underneath the angers, there's wounds and hurts. I was working with a couple last night, and this is one of the things that I see is when in the previous generation somebody had abandonment issues, and somebody abandoned them, like somebody had an affair. So there's all kinds of trauma and drama and fighting and screaming, and little boy gets woke up, hearing the fighting, and he just almost start trembling with anxiety, and trauma. And so then he grows up, and what's going to happen? Well, he's going to recreate his childhood. He has an affair, and he was married to somebody with abandonment issues. And then he's living in the same thing, and he don't even know it. It never crossed his mind. This is my childhood all over again. But he's extra sensitive to it. And that's what I do is you know what good therapy is about? It's the same thing good faith is about. It's about the truth. Let's get down to the truth. Let's find out who you are, where you came from. One of my favorite movies was the miniseries Roots. And I read the book, and in the book, it had this scene where Kunta Kinte was getting off the ship. He just arrived, and he was seeing a lot of slaves that had been there for a while. And he said he knew which tribe they came from. I know where you came from, but they had lost themselves. He said, these people don't know who they are, and they don't know where they came from. So he had a daughter, and he filled her up with every story of the tribe, every story of the family, and then said, when you have your kids, you pass this down. And they kept passing the story down till it got to Alex Haley. All he had to do was write it down. It was a very sad story. It was a powerful story. It was an interesting story. But that's what happens with most people is something happened, with the grandparents. Granddad was a molester, a sex addict or whatever. Or whatever happened, and nobody talks about it. And there's the next generation, they live life all covered up psychologically. Yeah. And then the next generation has all kinds of problems. We're wondering, why are these people having all these problems? Because it almost looked like it skipped a generation because they were imposters. They were hiding the whole time. It can look like it skips a generation, but it's going to come around eventually. You know, right. what happened. So what are your thoughts here about this?
Yeah, because I was just great. I asked you when you said talk about it. So it's like
talk about it.
We should, get our kids together. Hey, this is what happened to me, as a
Let me tell you about your granddaddy.
Yeah, let me talk to you about that, but not for the child. See, like right now, I got young adults who don't want to hear the rule of my home, and they're like want to take and use that stuff against me. Like, well, you did this. Well, you did that. Well, you did this. You
do they really?
So it's like, but the thing about it, the beauty of it is like, it don't hurt me.
Right.
I'm not hurt by it. Because yes.
It doesn't trigger you.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not triggered by it. Whereas I don't know if I was ever, I don't think I was ever triggered by it because I came to realize that was true. It's true. I'm healed from it. I've gone to another level, but I'm sharing my story so that you don't go down the same path.
Right.
So it's like, when does that sink in? I guess they got to keep getting ran over by the Mack.
They got to keep getting run over by the truck. Unfortunately, that's generally a 20-year-old get hit by a truck and it just bounce off. Mm-hmm. It don't make an impression. Because their defense mechanisms are because that's how God made it to be. When you're 20, God wants you to be deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid. So you can jump into love and jump into marriage and not see any. There are little red flags everywhere, but you don't see those little red flags because you're in love and you're young and you're invincible. Mm-hmm. But. Later on, if you're in a situation where you're not married and you're dealing with dating, you better go looking for those red flags, or you're going to be in some hard times, some trouble. So, other thoughts before I go on with my list here?
I got some thoughts. I love that sis just mentioned share, and so in what I do, my actual tagline is share your story. Your healing begins there. And so I could just remember two things about my mother, because I do spoken word, and I started at 18 years old. And so she would always encourage me, go share your story, Shay, or go up there and just tell it. And so when she said tell it, though, I don't know if she understood what she was telling me. Because in my family and in our community, Black community, we typically don't tell what goes on in the household. And so I went through some pretty severe abuse as a child, and my mom always told me, don't tell them what I did or mommy's going to go to jail.
She's giving you double messages.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, you want me to share it or you want me to share it to please you? I'm confused. So at 18, though, when I started sharing, I just started sharing as honestly as possible. And ever since, and even wrote a book about it, as honestly as possible, from addictions.
What was the name of your book again?
The Cussing Christian.
Cussing?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so telling the story, though. Yeah, it's okay, first of all, with the Cussing Christian, who's going to be honest enough to say, as people who love Jesus, we might say a cuss word or two. For me, I curse because my mom always cursed at me. She called me B's and H's all the time. And I remember asking her, Mom, what does that mean? Is that a good thing to be called? And she just looked at me. And then she didn't say anything. So anywho, that's that. But so she gave me permission to tell. And so I've been on a mission to tell, but not to tell in the sense of I'm just going to tell the good stuff. I'm going to talk about all the bad stuff. Every single flaw, from drunkenness, homosexuality,
people
confusion.
Will connect with that. Mm-hmm. You can teach people more by telling them your struggles than telling them the answers. Yeah.
And that's what I've learned, so to be used by God in that way, to just honestly tell in the most vulnerable way possible, it's just been interesting. And so I say that to say, to connect to what you're saying as a mom to a daughter. I was talking to my dad about something, and I said, one thing I want my daughter to know about me, I do a lot, but I want you to know that mommy always was honest. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some perfect person. And for me, at 30 and seeing my mom at 54, like she still has this false persona. Who are you really is the question.
The walls have never been broken down.
Who are you? Because I see this beautifully pieced together person, but on the inside, something is missing because I can see right through all that. And I don't want my daughter to ever be confused like mommy is this fake beauty, image of beauty and work and success, but who is she really? So I know even at 4, she knows mommy's gonna keep it a buck with you. Like you gonna know that what you see is what you get. There's no game or confusion here. Cause imagine being 30 years old and still confused about who is my mom for real. And not having that authentic relationship connection. So my point, I just appreciate you saying, share it with them. Cause I'm gonna continue to tell my baby, like this is mommy. And I'm not trying to tell you to go this way. Cause I went that way for both of us.
You model it for her.
Yeah, and teaching her the right way. Like this, I lived that, baby. You don't gotta do it. I did it for us already.
Hi again, this is Becca Wilson. I truly hope you have enjoyed our show today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, you be blessed and have a great day.